Okay, we're looking at topic 4 for your reassessment practice right now. Conditional statements with logic. So let's get out at question 1. Write the following statement into a conditional statement. This means to use the words if and then. So we would say here, if trees are green, we'd say if it's a tree, then it's green. Okay, number 2. Circle the hypothesis and box the conclusion. If you go to West Springfield, then you are a Spartan. This does not include the if and then. This part should be circled. The hypothesis, you are a Spartan, gets boxed, and that's the conclusion. If you remember, we call them P's and Q's. Okay, page 3, or question 3. Be careful of this question because these, what it's asking you for are not in the order that we're used to seeing them. So let's look at the first one. If you complete the review, then you will do better on the assessment. So we have come up with completing the review as being P, and you'll do better on the assessment as being Q. Okay? So remember, we need to have if P, if and then in our statements, so I've gone ahead and put that on there, and we will see what we show them with. I am going to actually start on the third one with the converse, and this is the one where we switch the order. So we would go with if Q, then P. Okay, so if we wanted to start with if Q, we would say if you do better on the assessment. That's your if Q, then you completed the review. Okay, let's look at the inverse. Inverse is when we negate them, so this would be not P, therefore not Q. So we want to start with our P again, completing the review, and we want to go to Q, which is do better on the assessments, but we are negating them. So this would be if you don't complete the review, then you won't do better on the assessment. Negating them. If they are positive, make them negative. If they're negative, make them positive. And lastly, we're going to look at the contrapositive. This is the one where we do both. So this is not Q, therefore not P. So again, we're starting with Q, so it's going to be something about doing better and then completing. But both of these are negated. So we're going to say if you do not do better on the assessment, then you did not complete the review. Just be careful about which word you're using. Okay, number 4. Write the following as biconditional, and then determine if it's a true biconditional. Biconditional is when we use these words if and only if. We sometimes abbreviate them IFF, and when you're writing them as a symbol, you use that double-sided arrows. So we would write this as a biconditional saying if the lines are parallel, lines are parallel, if and only if they never intersect. Okay? True or false? So to be true, it has to work both ways. If the lines are parallel, they never intersect. That does work. And it also has to work if they never intersect, then they're parallel. That does not work. And I can give you one counter example that does not. Skew lines. So because it doesn't work both ways, it's not a true biconditional. Let's try this one. If you have a triangle, then it's obtuse. So your your conditional would be that if it's a triangle, sorry, not if. Or biconditional would be triangle if and only if it's obtuse. So it has to work both ways. If it's a triangle, if it's obtuse, if no. And the other way, if it's obtuse, then it has to be a triangle. I'm going to go with false because I'm not really sure what this it is, if it's talking about an angle or a triangle. So it's saying if you have a triangle, then the triangle has to be obtuse, but you could have an acute triangle. So I would use that as my counterexample. It has to be an acute triangle would disprove it. Okay. Question number 5 is saying if a contrapositive is false, then what else is false? And if an inverse is true, then what else is true? This is asking you about those truth buddies. I've written the box down here to help you if you like to look at it where the diagonals are truth buddies, the conditional and the contrapositive work together, and the inverse or converse work together. Or you can think of the verses go together. Okay, so if the contrapositive is false, that means that the conditional will also be false, because those are truth buddies. And going with that same theory, if the inverse is false, then if the inverse is true, the converse is also true. Good way to remember the truth buddies is to remember that the verses work together. They go with each other. Okay, number 6 says, let P say if it is raining outside, and Q be I am wearing a raincoat. So we want to write these symbolically. Okay, let's try a little bit of highlighting and see if that helps us to see them. It's raining outside, and raining outside. And then we're also dealing with a raincoat, and a raincoat. So let's see now if we're dealing with P's, Q's, and not P's and not Q's. So P is if it's raining outside. So if it's raining outside is a P. If it's not raining outside would be not P. Now the raincoats. Wearing a raincoat is Q. So I am not wearing a raincoat is not Q. I am not wearing a raincoat is not Q. The only other thing we need to remember is and. And looks like that. And if we were looking for or, it would look like that. So we can put these together into symbols here. We would have if P, then not Q. And the other one says not Q and not P. Okay. Number 7 is asking us to interpret the Venn diagram. When you have a subset Venn diagram like this, it's very helpful to remember that if is in the middle, the more specific one, and then is on the outside. So if we wanted to write about this statement, we could say, if it's sunny, then I wear flip-flops.